on behalf of the African Development Bank, the way we perceive it is that the needs are huge for the African continent, and they are always increasing, especially in terms of adaptation to climate change. As more as we'll continue to emit greenhouse gas emissions, the adaptation needs that we'll have to face in the next 20 years, 30 years will be increasing. This translates for us into increased activities through our own portfolio of activities, but also through climate finance. The African Development Bank has been substantially increasing its activities with the climate investment funds, but also with the Global Environment Facility and a lot of bilateral aid that has been mobilized to support our regional member countries to mitigate climate change, to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, but also and more to adapt to climate change.
In terms of working on the African Development Bank's various investments, how much are you focusing now on cutting out investments which can contribute to climate change, such as coal-fired plants?
Yes, the African continent, in Africa we are in a situation where we have to, when we speak about energy, for instance, energy access, and we have a lot of landlocked countries, and also a lot of natural resources such as coal, then the question is whether we should support or not some coal investment on the continent. It is still being done on the continent, but the African Development Bank is more and more focusing on supporting renewable energies for increasing the access of energy to our African regional member countries. Because we also believe that financing is available to support some activities that would not be as clean as the renewable energy ones. So in our strategy, we can still support coal-fired power plants, but those has to be best practices, and it's increasingly, I think this year we have not financed any coal-fired power plants, and in the next years we'll focus more on renewable energies.
Okay, and I guess a final question: what role do you see for the African Development Bank over the next few years? Obviously, it's an important time with work to capitalise the green climate funds. Perhaps next year, we'll wait and see what the pledges are like. But give us a sense about what role you see for the African Development Bank, and obviously specifically related to climate issues.
The African Development Bank has demonstrated over the last 2 years that it can be a catalyst in mobilizing financing for both adaptation and mitigation. We use, through our various instruments, our concessional window, our non-concessional window, we can mobilize the private sector. We can mobilize additional sources of financing, such as the multilateral funds that are dedicated to environment and climate. And I think in that sense, the African Development Bank is more and more becoming a broker to facilitate the availability of such financing on the continent and increase the level of projects and activity that will be climate resilient and that will contribute to mitigate climate change on the continent.